I think when we had the very first keynote, I spoke to Shola because I had certain context that may not have come up in the keynote. And would I say I'm fortunate enough to have certain context that hasn't come up in this keynote. And I'm hoping this conversation will pull it out. I met Ridwan. First of all, I need to say, anytime you see Ridwan, just say thank you. Oh, just thank him on behalf of OO. One day you understand why. So I met Ridwan, I think probably 10 years ago or so. And so for context, I was the person that wrote the first deck for then Lemonade Finance. And how was it possible that such an experienced founder came to me first? What happened was, years prior, he used to be a developer at Hotels.ng. Then he started a community of developers. It was called For Loop. And it was supposed to be non-profits. And we did everything to help him get into YC. He didn't get into YC. Then eventually, he went to Flutterwave. Then from there, he became the head of growth at OPay. He tried to recruit me multiple times. I'll wake up one morning and he says, I'm in Enugu buying motorcycles. The next day, I'm Kogi, getting people to sell food. Then he became country manager of Uber. And from there, he came to start Lemonade Finance. So what's very important was that while we were trying to write the deck, it was pre-seed. So he was trying to raise a $3 million valuation, $500K, without any product. And I had to extract from him, why should anybody give you money? And he explained to me that they launched remittance in OPay prior to him joining Uber. So there was domain expertise. And most times people don't see that aspect when they say they want to come in to launch a startup where they don't have context. So tell me quickly about your experience getting into the remittance business and why you knew it was something you had to go back to.
Okay. I think the key variable for us was we didn't like the P&L of Nigerian banking startups. So I'll explain. When you sort of help build OPay, instead of seeds from charging 0 naira to only being able to charge 20 naira. We remember OPay was sort of like 0 naira. If you remember the first set, and then later we charged 20 naira. And you do that at scale, where you now have over 100,000 agents, so they were called at the time. And you sort of run the P&L, the revenue. You find out that the ARPU, which is sort of average revenue per user per year, for Nigeria, was like $10 to $15. But you sort of spend, let's say, pay-per-view on Facebook ad was sort of like $4 or $2. And the number of view per click is sort of like, let's say, 10, 20, right? If you sort of have really good targeting. And then the conversion rate to transacting customer. By the time you do the math, you're spending almost $20 to acquire an agent. But you're only going to make $10 to $15 a year from that agent by selling airtime and making 2% on the airtime and so on and so forth. And that meant that your payback period was going to be the second year, right? And we just didn't like that. So we thought, how can we build a company that sort of takes that equation out of it, where the ARPU was much higher, but still give us the advantage of Nigeria, right? And then we tried to build remittance for that sole sake at OPay. It was called O-Transfer. I don't think a lot of people ever saw it. And if you're sort of the product manager at OPay, you sort of also will inevitably be involved in that particular product because it has to integrate to OPay. That wasn't successful, but then we thought if we were the one doing it, we would have done it differently.
So the idea that you could look at a you were in a company that had many products, and you saw a sub-niche that you could extract to focus on. So it was interesting because, like you said, it wasn't really successful. Is it possible that all the other things that were happening in the company were distracting to prioritize it? So it was easier for you to just focus on that particular vertical for it to succeed?
Honestly, I don't think it is that we thought we could be successful because it was us. Because we didn't even understand how to obtain a license abroad. We had to Google all of those things. It was just the economics. We thought the economics made more sense, and it was worth trying than ending up in a $15, $20 ARPU business market and then not being able to scale as we thought we could.
Okay. So there's one other aspect I want to talk about most people don't know. So Ridwan was country manager, and we started doing this fundraise, say October 2020, around that period. One day I'll show the charts where there was no logo. So I just Googled lemon. I just told the person writing the deck. So that deck was just the first result for Lemon to show how quickly he was moving. But there was one key thing. Ridwan was still in Uber, and his 1 year was supposed to vest in February. And he was like, I'll go full time in February. There was a lot of money at stake. But eventually, after raising the money, I think you left December, or you left in January. When did you leave?
I left a month before my vesting of ESOPs, RSUs at Uber.
So there's a very big similarity with Shola in the sense that, again, I normally tell people I've seen patterns. So Shola had a company called Precurio, and they just raised 50K, and Paystack couldn't raise 10K. But even though he left all his stocks and went with Paystack, he didn't say, and they were making some revenue per year, he didn't say, let me still have this side project. I would only work on it on weekends. He went all in. So I just wanted to point out that pattern, that if you really believe in something, you can't tell me that I'm still trying to keep this. So I don't know how it is for the other people that have succeeded, but when I say two people that have changed the game, it's very, very important. There's one more thing I want to talk about. I want to capture. Okay, two more things. One is the team you have built. The first person to come in was Ryan, who you worked with at OPay. All right, for me, that was a very good signal. If your colleague is really willing to come in, then that sends a very, very strong signal. But of course, it was only you at the beginning, very, very beginning. He was consulting. Then all of a sudden, he was like, "Man, I don't want the cash. I want my equity in here." He was there from day one. So tell me, how were you able to bring him in? The second thing I've seen is the team you have recruited, going very, very global, and recruiting domain experts. That is so surprising how high quality they are. How did you approach team building?
The first, which is Ryan. So Ryan and I used to work at OPay. It was a direct. Actually, Ryan used to be my boss. Let's be clear. Ryan used to be my boss at OPay, and I think I sort of worked in that company with all my heart, and I was 100% honest in a market like Nigeria with them. And so when I asked him to join, actually, brought the idea. Said, Ridwan, say you be product guy. I know say you be product guy, technical guy, but you need a co-founder. How about that guy? How about one of those guys at OPay? I said, okay. But you need a finance guy now. That not the compliments. I said, okay, wait. So I called Ryan. But Ryan and I were not that close, right? And I said, Ryan, I'm building this thing. Will you join me? And Ryan was like, okay, let me think about it. It was later on I found out how he decided. He came back and said yes, but later on I asked why. So he went to my real boss. So I used to report to a guy called Nuno Sitima. Nuno was the CEO of Opera Software, the browser company, and was also like the head of OPay at the time. And he went to Nuno and said, there's this guy, Ridwan. I'm sure you remember him. He used to report to you. He says I should join him in a startup. What do you think? And I sort of This is interesting. I'll sort of paraphrase what he said. I mean, it was a compliment to me, so I'm happy to. And Rand said, said, if there's anybody in Africa that we had worked with, that you wanted to do anything with, that was worth doing with, then the only name in his mind was Ridwan. And that was what Nuno told Rand. And Rand came back and said, yes, he'll do it. He didn't take a salary for like a year. And then later on, he was in full time.
So one of the things I like to tell people is that you're always interviewing. So you never knew you were interviewing for your co-founder while working. So wherever you are, I normally try to tell people you're always interviewing in life. However you operate, when they set the time for 10 and you come by 10:30, you're just naturally interviewing. And the day the job, the day they have to make a decision, you've already interviewed for the job. So you already interviewed without trying to convince him in future. It was in the past. So it's something that most people that are building in existing companies, where you're working for someone else, you just have to give your all so that when it's time, you would be able to know that you will pass the stage. Finally, I wanted to just talk about one very important point. They are coming to drag me off the stage, but before they can get here, I just want to talk about something. So I noticed a few things. At the beginning, I was the one guy. I was always receiving investment updates. Then the relationship changed over time. Then all of a sudden, it became more secretive, right? And I learned of Series A from TechCrunch. I just say, Ridwan, God bless you. And that was it. So what I want to understand is what has changed. It's easy to say from the outside what changed in the business, etc., your scale, your scope. But what changed in the essence of how you could trust, how you could become a bit more paranoid, how your investors went, and not just investors, how competition became more risky, how you had to information control, just how the stakes just got higher over a period of time. Then we'll conclude here.
I think two things. The first thing was the industry we're in. In remittance markets, the sensitivity of the amount of remittance you inflow into a country, that information is very, very sensitive, right? And I'll tell you why. So a lot of emerging market countries are scarce, like always look for dollars, right? And so if you send X amount to Nigeria, or you send X amount to Ghana, or you send X amount to Kenya, and for one reason, the regulator thinks the amount you send is more than how much you report, because somebody saw the number incorrectly somewhere, you're in trouble. The next day, your business can be shut down. So because of the sensitivity of that data, we also had to treat the information rights of LemFi we had to hold it to a high standard of who would get the access to information. And then two, also because of the markets, African market is, if one person knows you're doing well, 3 days from then, their friend starts the same company. Or their friends start the same company. And then what's happening is that you're sort of diluting value for your investors, right? Because it's the same guy that gives A money that will give B money, that will give C money, right? And so you want to prevent that as much as possible, right? To be able to get a head start, to scale fast, to sort of build huge moats around your business, right? And so that's sort of another reason why we sort of reduced the number of investors that could get access to our information.
All right, thank you very much. While we take a picture, one final thing. When are we hearing the announcement we're at the billion? Because I do not know. I need to find out from you. No comment. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please give them a round of applause. We have Ridwan Olalere from LemFi. Can we please have pictures?